you're not going to be in competition for those higher paying jobs to be on the top side of that 50% for that median income. Um, does that answer your question, or you got some more? Does that?
Nah, that's straight. That's good.
All right. So now we're going to talk about what really the problem is. It's really people and their income versus their expenses. So the real problem is everybody is overspending. People are living above their means, and that's going to lead you to financial stress. So you're going to have limited financial flexibility, and it's going to be difficult for you to achieve long-term financial goals if you're always in the hole. So according to the Federal Reserve, back in August 2021, U.S. consumer debt exceeded $4.4 trillion. So that means there was $4.4 trillion of people borrowing money that they haven't paid back yet. When we look at this, then we really see that if you can't afford something, you probably should not go ahead and buy that, um, unless you have a plan in place to where you're buying something that's going to generate you a return. You're going to borrow money to go and get an asset that's going to then return a profit. So a lot of Americans have a very low savings rate. Somebody else just hopped into the waiting room, so we're going to let them join in. But a lot of Americans are not saving money because their expenses are so high. And so majority of us are living paycheck to paycheck. And that's another thing that affects that, you know, the median income and the unemployment rates and the poverty levels and things of that nature. People don't have that time, that flexibility to save their money. Um, and so when we talk about, hey, how do we find a solution to this problem? You got to live below your means, and that's just simply that's a fundamental principle of personal finance. So living below your means, basically, hey, if I'm earning $14,000 a year, I can only spend $10 or $12,000, or I got to figure out how to increase my income. Does anybody have a question, or is there any concerns about, hey, what does living below my means mean?
I think it kind of goes back to what the gentleman was saying about how do you build the additional income in these highly or more densely populated areas where the unemployment rate is so high, and the job market, most of the people work if retail. A lot of people in these larger cities work retail jobs, and it's not really a lot of money in that. So that's one thing that I would like to, try to hone in on,
And
teaching or exploring a little bit more, is how do we increase the income, or how do we learn to save without using credit to fund
yeah,
the basic needs?
and so that is definitely a good question, but I would challenge that with, hey, there's not there's some things wrong with America, but then there's some things that actually are right. And in America, they are big proponents of capitalism. With capitalism, you are able to go out, start a business, be an entrepreneur, and earn more income. Your skills, your value, if you provide value to the community, to the area around you, you're able to earn money based off of that. So that's a way that someone can, still work the retail job, but when they get home, now they're working on whatever passion they may have. What if it could be music, it could be photography, it could be, making apps. But you can go ahead, you can go do some freelance work. There's other ways to earn income rather than just having a 9 to 5 job and being on a W-2.
Hey,
Honestly,
Austin, I'm
yep,
sorry. I have a question. When we talk about unemployment rates,
yep.
unemployment rates, the number of people, it's not unavailable jobs. It's people who aren't going to work these jobs, correct? Or am I wrong?
So the unemployment rate is looking at the total labor force and then looking at the people within that age range that could be working and aren't working those jobs.
Get it, baby.
Got it. So it's not a lack of availability of jobs. It's just people not going and getting them.
Yeah, so there are opportunities, you could do one of the less demanded jobs, trash truck driver or something janitor. But also you got to think about the salaries that come with those jobs. So people are chasing those higher paying jobs, and that's where you see that disparity in the income and things of that nature.
That makes perfect sense. I think you're right. There are times where I have had conversations with people and I say, and this is not about building a business. I will say to them, you can get a part-time job at McDonald's. They pay $15, $12 and people are like, I'm not working at McDonald's. So how do we help people to change the mindset until they can get where they want to be, getting into a place so that they can start building some income in one form or another.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it just starts with conversations like this, getting a group of people together that want to better themselves and learn education. My fiance has actually really helped me out a lot by just telling me to read. I think I've gotten through like 3 or 4 books in the last 45 days, and it's really increased my knowledge a lot. Some of it has been financially, some of it has been business wise, some of it has been self development, but you know educating yourself, because you don't get taught about the ways of the world in school. And so there's, this stigma of, go to school, get good grades, go get a good job, and everything is going to like it's going to be okay. But it's not, because now you just went to school, you probably got student loans. Now you're in six-figure debt that has the highest interest rates available, and you don't have the knowledge of how money works and how to employ your money to work for you. And so it really starts with just education.
Mhm.
And so we talked
Um,
about. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think to add to that too, sometimes you have to actually give people something to work toward, right? So like, you know, it just depends, right? I know people that, to your point, Tawana, you would say, oh, well, go get a part time job doing this, and well, so if you told them to go get a full time job doing that, it would be like, no, I don't want to do that. But if they are working towards a goal, vacation, buying a home, buying a car, paying off debt, whatever it is, all of a sudden, and they can see how that piece of the puzzle can fit into accomplishing that goal, then all of a sudden, it, the shame of it, or the ego is to the wayside, because it's a purpose behind it. And I mean, that's kind of what you're saying, Austin, is just like educating people, is that, but you're giving them a purpose behind it. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I think that until people have a goal and a purpose for things, everything seems like not worth it. But, you know, at the end of the day, I always tell people, even though I think that, you know, 750 or $10 an hour, like how are you going to survive off of that? Or like even the $14,000 a year is like, how are you going to do that? Like you said, it's poverty, but $14,000 a year is better than no dollars a year. Like, you know what I mean? So like,
Right.
you gotta kind of give people a goal and an objective to work towards, and then all those other things kind of fall into place.
Yeah. I see a comment. Humility is the beginning of wisdom. Yeah, 100%. Being humble and being able to take advice or take that path that is less traveled is definitely the beginning of finding something new. And honestly, what you just said, brings us into our next point. Um, setting financial goals is going to be a big factor in you actually getting to the place that you want to be. If you have no goal and you have no direction and you don't know what you want to do, then it's hard to get somewhere or get out of the place that you're currently in. And so we're going to talk about, setting short-term and long-term goals. A method that I learned, I was constantly drilled this when through the military, playing football, having SMART goals. So SMART specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. And so if we talk about our short-term goals and how that's supposed to look, for short-term, we want to identify our priorities, right? So start by determining what your, financial needs and priorities are. And so what are you trying to do? Are you trying to pay off a credit card debt? Are you trying to save up to go to, Cabo? Do you want to build an emergency fund? Do you have an emergency fund? Have you ever even thought of that? So prioritize your goals based on their importance and the urgency and when they're going to come up. And so if you want to make them specific and measurable, then clearly define what your short-term financial goal is. And so instead of just saying, I want to save money, be specific. Say like, I want to save $2,000 in 2023 so that I have enough money for unexpected car maintenance. So now you know, hey, next time my tire goes out, I have the money to pay for that. And that's the purpose of this money. So just making your goals specific and measurable, it allows you to track progress as well. Hey, it's June 2023. I only have $700 saved. I still need $1,300 for the rest of 2023. How can I save $1,300 in the next 6 months? Hey, that seems like it's going to be about $200, $250 a month. There you go. You know how to do that now. So setting a realistic timeline for yourself. Consider your financial situation and how much money you can comfortably save within a certain amount of time. We just kind of talked about that a little bit. So be realistic, set a timeline that's actually achievable. Like don't say, hey, I want to be a millionaire next year and you're only making 50K a year. You're gonna have to hit the lottery. You're gonna have to do something, spectacular that's like a 1 in a billion chance. And divide your short-term goals into smaller goals. If you have like a 6-month goal, make a 3-month checkpoint that you want to be at a certain point 3 months from now, and then make a monthly. Hey, this is where I want to be month 1. This is where I want to be month 2. That's how I'm going to get to month 3, and ultimately, month 6. So, for instance, if your goal is to save 2,000, just break it down month by month and have saving targets. Hey, 200 a month, 100 a month, $75 a month. Just put it aside, and now you can track your progress, and you'll feel good about it. And so when we talk about long-term goals, this is where you want to get creative. This is where you really want to dream. Envision your future. Where do you want to be? Consider your long-term aspirations. Hey, I want to buy a 5-bedroom house. I want to retire comfortably, making 6 figures, every single year annually. I want to start a business. I want to make sure I have enough money saved up that my kid doesn't have to go and pay for or borrow money for a college education. So just envision what you want to achieve in the long run, and then what steps are necessary to get there. So we want to quantify our goals and make sure our long-term goals are specific and measurable. We just talked about that. So assign a dollar amount. How many kids do you have? Are they going to go to an in-state college? Are they going to go out of state? How much does it cost? Okay, if that is how much it costs, how can you get to that point annually based on your current financial situation? And, hopefully you're going to increase your income as you get older and as the time goes on. So we can say, hey, I want to save for retirement. Saving for retirement, a lot of financial advisors, they'll give you the 4% rule. So for example, if I have $1 million in retirement savings, then I can comfortably spend $40,000 a year. And I think that my money is going to last for the rest of my life. They say, hey, on average, you're going to get 4 to 6% in the market. If you only spend 4%, that means you're getting a 2% gain every single year. That's how they came up with that formula. And you can have that goal. How can I get to $1 million retirement? How can I get to a $2 million retirement? 4%, saving 20% of your annual income every single year for 40 years, you're likely to get there. And so consider your time and your investment options. So determine the time horizon for every single long-term goal that you have. Choose an appropriate investment vehicle for whatever it is. Like if your goal is 5 years from now, don't go and open up a retirement account that you're going to save your money in, because you can't touch that money without being penalized until you're 60 years old. So making sure that you know what you're doing with the money and why. So breaking it down into milestones, long-term goals, they can span several years or even decades. Kids' education, you have a kid, it takes 18 years before they're getting ready to college. That's almost 2 decades. You can plan for those type of things. So, to wrap it up, just always review and adjust your goals periodically. If it's a year-long goal, once you get to the end of the year, like, hey, am I going to have that same goal the following year, or am I going to bump it up a little bit? Did I lose my job? Did I get a better paying job? Am I able to do these type of things? Just make sure that they align with the financial situation that you have that's evolving every single day. And so that's really where we have for y'all today. We didn't want to take up too much of your time. We told you guys 30 to 45 minutes. We're sitting right at that 45-minute mark. So I'm going to sit back and stay here. I think a lot of people will probably stay back. If you guys have any questions, let us know, and we'll just have an open discussion. But everybody else, if you got what you needed, we hope that we provided you with some type of value, knowledge, and we hope that you come back to the next one and bring some people, invite some people over, and so that we can really, cultivate this conversation and educate people.
I want to say thank you. I want to add real quick that everything doesn't go as planned. So you really made some great points there. I got a question, not necessarily for you, Austin, but for the group as a whole. Do you think whether it's investing in your business or investing in your education or just investing in yourself, do you think incurring debt is a necessary step to get to wealth?
Mm.
So
Question.
I'm sorry. So aside from being born into wealth or being willing to work, 22 hours a day, it is almost in my opinion, a necessity. But you have to learn how to manage it. I think the problem is the things that people incur debt for don't actually work out, like don't actually add any value to the overall. So like it's one thing to incur debt for like an education, because then that might be able to help you get, to Austin's point, a higher skill paying job, right? Because at this point, they want you to have a bachelor's degree just to answer telephones in most cases, like just to be a receptionist, and that started 20 years ago. It's not necessary. You can go out and start your own business and try that whole thing. But if you don't have anyone in your circle that knows how to do that, you're kind of, you're going to. Most people don't have cash to throw down and to pay for a house in cash, so you got to incur debt for that. So some debt is necessary, and I do think that people just need to learn how to leverage it properly and use it, and learn how to keep their own cash. But that's just my own personal opinion. Obviously, I'm a loan officer, so I see people. I don't know how people would get, $1 million homes otherwise, uh, or even $300,000 homes or $200,000 homes or 100. Most people, like, that's just like a debt that they have to incur. But do you need to incur debt for material items and things like that have no appreciating value? At the end of the day, you incur debt on a home, if you are kind of wise about where you choose to buy, it should appreciate in value. And even if you have to pay whatever the interest is, like, you should get that return on your investment. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah, and I would have to agree and disagree with some of those points.
Okay.
Education is a costly debt to incur. So really, if you don't have a plan for how you're going to use that education, I would say that education is an unnecessary expense if you want to get, financially free sooner, because you're going to get that entry-level job, just like she said, and you're going to have this potentially 6-figure debt that you're in, and it's going to take you 10 to 20 to 30 years. Like,
to be clear, I didn't say you had to incur 6-figure debt to get it, though. you
the
don't
math,
have to incur
the
six-figure
time.
debt to get it.
Yeah.
You can go to a community college for a couple of years. Depending on your income levels, you can get Pell Grants. I mean, at the end of the day, my bachelor's only cost me about 15 grand, and 10 of it was from one semester uh, at one school.
Yeah.
So I think that, so I'm not saying you have to rack up this ginormous burden, and I think that's what people don't. That's where the disconnect, and to your point of what we're trying to do here, is educating people on how to navigate that, right? Like, everybody doesn't have to spend 20 grand a year or 30 grand a year to go to school. You can go to school for 2 years, get you a Pell Grant. You can almost get an associate's depending on what your situation is, for little or nothing, maybe tuition and fees. I mean, not tuition and fees, books and fees, out of pocket if you can. And then, maybe the last 2 years you might have to take out some loans for, do 2+2 in state, things like that. So I'm not saying you have to rack up
Yeah.
tens of thousands of debt, but you're gonna have something, you know.
100%. I understand. And that's why I said it's just about being smart and incurring that debt to go and get an asset, whether it's a skill asset where you're investing in yourself and your intellectual property, whether it's a physical asset, whether, because some people just go get debt and go and get, an expensive car. So what are you going to do with that car? Are you going to be renting it out? Are you going to be, if you're going to get debt, you have to go and get debt in a way that is going to allow you to leverage to make a return. And whether you're going to be the one that's making the return or you're going to go and get an asset that's going to make the return for you, there's definitely time to where you have to invest into something in order to see growth.
I want to add, and I know this is a financial literacy presentation, but I personally have experienced this, incurring debt, but not for financial gain, but possibly for self-developmental gain. I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's different ways um, that you can view taking on debt, and you
Mm-hmm.
can view investing. Improving yourself personally, or at least improving myself, has
Mm-hmm.
allowed me the opportunity to gain a higher income and receive, more opportunities than I would have prior to the things that I learned.
Yeah.
Uh, I think an important thing also to mention in the audio book that you shared with me, Psychology of Money, was knowing when to walk away. Like,
Yes.
when the debt is getting out of control and you're not really seeing that return on your investment, you have to know when to say enough is enough.
Yeah. And honestly, I missed that point in the book. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And I think that goes back to saying, hey, I took on this debt to invest into myself and it increase my skills, increase my intellectual property to make me more valuable to society because I am the one that's going to create that return. So you definitely, you took on that debt to increase the value that you could provide to people. And so I would definitely agree with that point right there.
I agree with all of your points, and on different levels. So for me personally, I did incur the insurmountable amount of student loan debt by initially starting at a community college and then getting a license, realizing that I did want to invest and build a business. So then I went the licensing route and started my own business and worked self-employed or entrepreneurial avenue for many years. And then realizing that once I did not, there were places where I did not know how to grow. So what I've learned is one must continue to self-develop. And so that is an investment. But I found for myself that, and I passed on hopefully to anyone, including, Austin and my younger daughter, that I don't believe in the student loan debt. So I taught them to, and really instilled into them to go to school for free. Use the skills that you have to build your lifestyle right now. This is your resume. Go to school for free, because I have an MBA, and even looking at those higher tier positions, it's very competitive there. So I found myself for many years working self-employed, because I had more income in that arena than I did in the competitive so-called corporate world. So I see your points in both ways, guys.
Yeah, and I think that's where Miss Ashland comes in, and she's saying, "Hey, we talk about how your upbringing affects your outlook on your financial, you know, perspectives." Because to me, I feel as if the things that I learned in school were not the things that got me ahead financially. Um, and so now, when I go out and I can make whatever salary I want to make, it wasn't because I learned algebra and those are critical thinking skills. But now I'm going out to find real estate properties. Now I'm making investments in the stock market. Now I know how to leverage life insurance. I know how to have multiple retirement accounts set up. And we never talked about that in the education system one time. And it's all about your timeline. Like, if you have a passion to go and be a doctor, you have to go to 10 years of school. Great. You get the career that you want, but also know that you're going to be working until you're 65. I have no intentions on working until I'm 65. So I can't go and get a whole bunch of student loans that I won't be able to pay off, because I have to wait and level up my income and wait for this hierarchy of, corporate America, when I can go and make investments and invest into myself and make a higher income, cut down my expenses to where I am financially free and I'm living off of my assets. And that doesn't come from school. And I'm not saying don't go to school. I'm just saying know what you want to do with that education. If you want to be a doctor, you want to be a doctor for the long run. You can't be a doctor for a couple years and then want to retire. It's not going to happen. You want to be a CEO, a CFO, you either have to start a business or you have to work at that job for 30 years until you get to that dream salary. And I'm just on the opposite side of that spectrum, where I don't want to take that route.
Austin, I wish I had your wisdom at your age.
Say that again. I'm like, where were you? Why weren't you in front of me instead of
Yes,
behind me?
yes,
But
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
okay. We'll follow
yes,
you now, from the
yes.
mouth of babes, they say.
Hello.
Well, I know you had a lot to do with it. I know it was a village. I know it wasn't just Tawana, but Tawana, wow, you did amazing. And his life experience, I'm sure, helped cultivate that wisdom. But, whoo, I would be so much far ahead if I was where Austin
I'll be
was.
a millionaire if I had my little cousin.
I know that's right,
Don't,
brother.
don't like you haven't touched that before. Don't.
Yeah, but I'm talking about I will be the time Tawana, Janelle, everybody, all my family.
But hey, I mean, the important thing is we're here and how we move forward with the knowledge and apply it. I'm learning now it's about not just what you make, it's what you can pass down and take with you
Yes, ma'am.
and be able
Absolutely.
to share with others. So I really appreciate this platform. Um, Austin, you blow me away every time I hear you. And Janelle, Tawana, Maxwell, Dwayne. I mean, we all have our debt, we all have our life experiences, but I'm really excited about this. I think this is amazing for people to have opportunity to communicate and learn and be able to apply this knowledge, because a lot of times life distractions don't put you in the position to think objectively about what's really important. And this is really important. This is what our children should be listening to. It's amazing, as you said earlier, Austin, in school, they don't teach you these life skills. I mean, just think about how far ahead our children and ourselves would have been if we were taught financial literacy, how to be a leader, how to be, a community organizer, how to deal with peer pressure and et cetera, how to deal with relationships and everything. I mean, it's just amazing. So I applaud you, Austin, for setting this up and just doing your thing.
Thank you. And it wasn't just me. Like I said, I worked with, my
No, I
aunt.
know.
Like it's not just me. They have sections in the presentation as well. Like this is not
Okay.
just a one-time thing. Like we're going to figure out if we're going to do this bi-weekly or monthly, but they're going to have times where they're the speaker the whole entire time. This was just
Okay.
this was my part, and I got a part later on in a couple months. So y'all might not even hear me for a while. Yeah, it's not just me.
Okay.
But nah, I think we all appreciate everybody that hopped on the call today. Honestly, wasn't expecting more than 5 people, but we got 13, 14. I seen a maximum like 15 people in the call at one time. So definitely appreciate the turnout. And if you guys could just let us know, hey, we want this a little bit sooner, or we want it, hey, that was pretty good. I'll wait till next month to hear the next one. We'll keep it.
Sooner.
Yes, ma'am.
Sooner.
Okay.
And if there was a takeaway, I would love to hear that. Like, for me, I'm learning, like you said, it's about assets. You know how Janelle had mentioned how to leverage your debt. I wish I had learned to, my husband's an owner operator. He initially he was a dump truck driver. Went from working for the government to being a 1099. So it's like you said, it's ever changing, it's ever evolving. You got to take risk. It's scary, it is, but when you believe in yourself and if you're able to offer value, you can be able to put yourself out there and go with that. So I'm just still learning. So I'm excited about this journey, and I'm glad to be a part of this, wonderful team.
Man, we're excited for you. And we definitely want to provide type of knowledge. Just let us know. And if we don't know the answer, we will go and find the answer. And that's why I have to have a team of people. Like I am good in certain areas, but I'm not a master. Even when my current personal finances, I still go in, I call my mom, I call my aunt, I talk to my cousin, and we talk about these things. So I continue to grow, they continue to grow as well. So.
Yeah, I have to say that it provokes me to growth. In our family, in this circle, it's almost, for me, it's like the student has become the teacher. So I find myself sitting quietly most a lot of times because I truly am learning. I know how to grind and I know how to get money. But I need to learn how to grow money. Like I can show you how to get some money in multiple ways. But I want to learn how to grow the money, and that's
Exactly.
What they say, make your pennies. What they say, it's the richest man in Babylon is a book that I read a long time ago, and it said make your pennies, masters of more pennies or something like that. And so to your point, it's like you're sitting here, and I call Austin. I'm like, what you think about this? Before I do it, what do you think about this? Because he went and he studied economics, and so I can tell you all day long what to do with a house, all day long. Sorry, it's someone's bedtime, but it's. I hope that this becomes more of a collaborative. Like I would love to hear more about you and what your husband does. Miss Lydia, I think is what you said. Is Penny. But and it becomes a collaborative effort where we can just really truly learn, grow, and support each other.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm hoping that this turns into.
Yes.
More than just a learning platform, a real collaboration and a real collective of businesses and minds. And even if you think you have something that you want to do that you haven't done yet, for us to collaborate and collectively figure out how to get us there. Because literally everybody else does it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else does it. And we sit here and watch it happen all around us all day, every day. And so I take pride in the fact that we're even doing this. That we got, what you say, Austin, 10, 12, 15 people that are willing to sit. Yeah, I mean, that are willing to sit down and say, all right, let's talk about this. And that brings me pride and that brings me joy. You know what I mean? So I think this is going to be I think this is the beginning of something very, very beautiful. It's in my spirit that it's going to be a wonderful thing. And I'm excited.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And keep
Yes.
sharing those books. Jawan, Sky, and I listened to The Psychology of Money. And one thing that Sky took away from The Psychology of Money, she said to me, she said, Mom, everybody does it their own way. And I'm like, oh, damn, you're right. I mean, I didn't curse with her, but, you're right, baby. She really, she all this can be like a family thing coming from us first, but I try to share as much as I can with Sky and any other children that I'm introduced to, because they soak it all in. They take in whatever we're pouring out. So thank you so much.
100%. 100%. No, and I appreciate you guys. Austin has definitely been a light in my life, and I know that he's an extension of you and Sky, and he talks very highly of you both. So I'm happy to be a part of everyone's journey.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're here, because I always pray for that. I ain't gonna get too deep, but I always pray that there's a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. I pray for that for Austin, because he was an only child for so long. And when I met you on a day that they were moving, and you put in the work. And
Oh yeah,
I certainly respected that. Thank
that's
you.
my brother. We're locked in for life.
Thank you
No
guys so much. I gotta run because I gotta pick Sky up from gymnastics, but I appreciate it. And whatever date we set for the next one, I'm in. I'll talk to you guys soon. Good night.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Hey,
I'm going to hop off too, you guys.